Alright, in this section we're going to look at an introduction to exponential functions, including what they look like and how we evaluate them by hand and with a calculator. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the function itself. This is what your standard exponential function is going to look like. This is f of x, the function name, equals b raised to the x power. What you're going to see here is the base b is going to be a number. The exponent here is going to be a variable expression, which is a little backwards from what we're used to. We're used to seeing e to the, not e, we're used to seeing x squared, x to the fourth, whatever. We do have some stipulations on b and x. B has to be bigger than 0. It can't be equal to 1. Now, as you know, that doesn't mean that you can't ever raise any negative number or 1 to a power. It just means that if you do, you can't call it an exponential function. They just don't behave the same way. Okay. X also has to be a real number in order for this to work. There is one special exponential function. We call it an exponential function with base e, or the natural base. Okay, natural base is base e. E is approximately 2.72, though most calculators have a value stored for that, so you probably won't ever have to actually plug that in. And we're not doing logarithms, so we're just doing exponentials, so we don't need to see that just yet. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So the natural base has a value there, and I'll show you how to use that in a minute when we get to the calculator. Natural base is a irrational number, just like pi, and so you have to have a calculator to really deal much with it, unless you want to use a small approximation for it. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of examples of how we evaluate. How do we deal with it when we have a number plugged in where the x is here? Alright, here's a couple of examples. We're going to let g of x be 4 raised to the x power, okay? And in this first problem, we're going to let x be equal to 4. So what we're really doing is we're finding g of 4, which is going to be 4 to the 4th power, okay? So you got to figure out what 4 to the 4th is. You can use a calculator here if you want to, and in a second I'll show you what to type in on a calculator to do something like this. Or if you happen to know what 4 to the 4th power is, you can do that. Okay, so our value here is 256. Okay? Some exponentials you'll know off the top of your head, others you will have to use a calculator to find, and that's okay. Our next one is g to the 1/2. Now, you may not be familiar with taking exponentials that are fractions. What fractions do, fractions represent roots. Okay, so fractions that are exponents really mean a root. So you look at the denominator and see what the number is that's in the denominator. We have a 2 here because this is a 4 to the 1/2 power. That denominator represents the index of the root. And so what this is actually telling you to do is take the square root of 4, which is just 2. Okay? So we've had 256 and we've had 2. Now let's look at this one here. And for this one, we're finding g of -2. Negatives are another odd exponential. What a negative exponent tells you to do is flip the base, or take the reciprocal of the base. Okay, it doesn't alter the sign on the value at all, but it will give you, instead of 4, 1/4. We do still need to apply the other part of that exponent, so I will go ahead and square that 1/4 and get 1/16. Okay? Alright, so that's how we do it if we don't necessarily need a calculator. You may still need one to kind of help you through those, and that's okay if you do, but you don't have to apply a calculator with them. Now let me show you how to use the calculator if you've got one you just got it for. Okay? Let's take a look at these two little pictures that I've got. This shows two different versions of a calculator, two different versions of the keys that we use. The one that you see here on the left-hand side of the screen, we've got a couple different keys that I want to call your attention to. First of all, when these are actually right next door to each other, so they'll be really easy to see. Let me get a little smaller pencil tip. This one, well, if it'll let me draw, this one right here is the y to the x key. You will see it on some calculators, and it is just an exponent key. It will raise whatever base you enter in to whatever power you enter in, okay? On this calculator here on the right-hand side, that same key is right there. It's a different looking key. It's a caret key, or a little house top. That's also an exponent. And I left my second N of that, sorry. We have one other thing to look for here, and that is the e to the x key. And on this calculator, it's right here, right next to it, actually on a key surface. That's a little unusual. Typically, it's the shift or the second that will give you that that function on a regular calculator. Over here, you'll notice it right above the ln or natural log key that we'll look at later. Okay, so on this calculator over here, you will have to hit shift before you hit that one to pull that e to the x up. Okay, now on some calculators you'll enter the number of the base first, then hit that key, and then do the exponent. On other calculators you'll do the exponent first, hit the key, and then do the base. Okay, so it's kind of backwards on some calculators. So you just have to kind of play with yours until you get the right answer, and then you'll know which one yours uses. Okay, so let's take a look at what our two values are for these two questions. The first one I've got is 3 to the 3.2 power. So you're going to enter 3, hit your exponent key, your y to the x or your house top, and then hit 3.2. If that does not give you the value that I get, then reverse that. Do 3.2, hit your exponent key, and then hit 3. You will need to hit equals or enter after you hit that sequence. And for that I get, approximately, a little squiggly equal sign like that means approximately 33.63, and I'm rounding to a couple decimal places there. Okay, again, if you don't get it the first time, just try a different order and you should be fine. Okay, if all else fails, look it up on your calculator's manual or Google it for your particular brand of calculator and you'll get some help there. Okay, now let's take a look at using the e to the x key. When you hit e to the x, sometimes you'll get on your calculator screen an e and then maybe the little caret key thing, and it may even open up a set of parentheses for you. For this particular problem here, you would type in a 4, close the parentheses, and hit equals. Okay. If it doesn't open a set, you really don't need a set of parentheses in this particular case. If you just have an e key and it's not e to the x, you will then need to type in the exponent key, whichever one you happen to have, before you put the 4 in. Okay? So let's get that a try. And you may need to put the 4 in first. So if you hit the e to the x key and it gives you an error message on your calculator, type in 4, then hit it. Okay? Okay, for that one we get approximately 54.60. Okay, 0.6. You can round to the nearest tenth if you want to. Round to whatever decimal place the problem's asking you to round to.